Let me initiate the session. In the name of Allah, the most beneficent, most merciful, great scholars, today I feel proud that Sialkot is going to produce another PhD, and that in the area CDA, critical resource analysis. Now you can see the title. It's a very striking area. It's PWR. It's a burning social issue. And CDA does exactly that. CDA is problem or issue oriented research, and my supervising put it up many years ago in 2020. She worked day and night, she covered all the phases and stages, and finally she was going to appear for final defense, PhD defense, and tomorrow inshallah she will be declared as a PhD doctor, a social scientist, a real social scientist, because she has dealt with a social issue and applying CDA lenses, the critical framework, the conceptual framework, the analytical framework. She has done something which has far-reaching implications and a contribution. Now, all of you please have a bit of paradigm shift. Dr. Samara already is in a different paradigm. She's sitting with me as PhD doctor, as a panelist. The rest of you have to, change your mental level. Now, you are not sitting there as students or you think of yourself as PhDs and as CDA specialists. And the moment she is done with the presentation part, then she must be bombarded with questions. And this sequence will be very systematic. We will start, and even during the presentation, you can raise your hand, and the moment she says yes, please, then you can ask the question. So please, I invite you to stretch your attention span, be very attentive, very alert, very involved, and very keen kind of interest you show. Your facial expressions must be like scholars. Never give the impression to the presenter that you are getting bored or not interested, because this must be of great interest to you. So I invite Nudrat Javed Hashmi to present hard work of years, 4 years of hard work. Welcome.
Thank you so much, respected sir, for your kind words. In the name of Allah, the most gracious and the most magnanimous, Assalamu alaikum, everyone has Dr. Sukur already told it to I'm going to present before the mandate for my final PhD defense. This is going to be a mock session for me, and it's going to be very learning oriented, because I'm going to get a lot of questions from your side that should be there, and answer should be there from my side, so there will be proper clarity for tomorrow's defense. So it's going to be an enlightening session for me and everyone. Thank you everyone for being here and for your precious time. Just able to be like speaking, because there are time restraints as well. So starting with the topic of my research, the topic is social media memes on rape and harassment victims in Pakistan and critical resource analysis, as already told that the area is critical resource analysis. Let me give you a brief introduction of my research. Area is critical resource analysis and research investigates the social media memes in online sexual violence, sexual blatant victims, and victim silencing of rape and harassment victims in Pakistan. The rationale of the study is basically the study signifies or investigates it reveals that how social media memes contribute in shaping public perception and how they connect structure of social media users to the multimodal discourse and discursive practices which they have employed through their social media memes. And through these discussion practices, which are multimodal and linguistics, how they normalize legitimized challenge societal attitudes toward rape and harassment victims, and highlight the unique alleged and analytical lens. The aim of the study is to basically investigate and discuss the criminal practices and representations of rape and harassment victims in social media memes within the Pakistani social political cultures, so social culture, even critical discourse analysis as a lens of the study to uncover power identities, to multi-modal mechanism, linguistic mechanism which are responsible for creating social media memes and challenge social attitudes of victims, sexual violence, hierarchy, unique analytical style. So aim is to investigate these multi-modal discourses and how these content shape or challenge victim believing and victim silencing discourse. The method which I utilize to analyze social media memes are multi-modal discourse analysis of personality and socio-cognitive model of discourse by context. The significance of the research basically lies within the Pakistani socio-political situation and how social media memes trivialize victims through irony, humor, moral judgment, moral policing, victim blaming narratives. The present research contributes our understanding that with how persuasive strategies, lecturing language, emotionality, and stylistic variation used by social media memes creator and circulator build narratives on social media in digital sphere. So coming to the background of the study.
Before you move on, a question. What pushed you towards this area?
Critical discourse analysis, as earlier said, so it's a problem-oriented research domain which investigates social issues which need to be addressed. So as far as rape and harassment victims are concerned, basically known Kadam case, Rap rape case and Mutter rape case, and the way they were presented on social media, and there was bombardment of social media memes which were creating sexual violence and victim blaming. And that is one way there were memes as well which were justifying the satirizing victims as well. There were two sides of the social media memes, positivity and negativity. But the magnitude of negative social media memes which were creating social, you can say, restraints and victim blaming and victim silencing on social media, that was high. The magnitude of negative meme was high. That was one way of silencing the victims, which were already silenced through the crime which was basically committed with them. So this shaped my interest that this area should be explored because it was not explored earlier, especially the practical, you can say, theorization, critical discourse analysis. This lens was not used earlier in terms of combining socio-cognitive model and multi-modal. That because memes, as you know, that memes are the manipulation of semiotic and linguistic resources both. So one lens was utilized earlier that there were researchers from the international background, they were working on critical discourse analysis as well as CDA was concerned in terms of socio-cognitive. But they haven't amalgamated multi-modal because when you're researching memes or when you're analyzing memes, which are the manipulation of both the resources, how can you leave one aspect, which is more powerful as well? Because what is being said through text is being, there is congruency between text and semiotic resources, and sometimes semiotic resources are more powerful. So amalgamating two, you can say, methodological triangulation was needed because cognition is exposed through linguistic and semiotic resources, which were utilized by the social media users. So this was unaddressed. The issue was unaddressed. There was no early research which was on real rape cases and real rape cases, and I applied analysis on these things and I discussed things about research methodology, what was the criteria. But these were the, you can say, high profile cases as well as far as the means are concerned. So this shaped my interest and why I should address this issue because this was not addressed earlier. And how
can I say that it's a groundbreaking research because research starts with catching threads from the past.
Yes.
That used to claim that well, now I'm going to stand at the shoulder of giants. Now, how can you say that well your research is connected with the recent past and then it will extend into the future?
As far as the previous research are concerned in this particular area, especially dealing with rape and harassment victims, as I said, so that international research is available, but very limited research as far as Pakistan is concerned, and especially incorporating socio-cognitive and analysis, so that there is no real research on the real rape cases as far as research paradigm is concerned. So yes, this is going to be groundbreaking research as well, because real rape cases were discussed, and there was a complete rigorous research on the real rape cases and the social media memes which were incorporated by social media instigated on these social issues. And this is going to be, you can say, the pave the way for other researchers as well. They can take this line and they can explore other areas as well by employing different, you can say, limitations which are there in my research. We can work on these limitations and further this area can explore, broader sense as well. So yes, this is going to be a groundbreaking research as well as paper as well as concerned. So coming to, as I said, so that there was a crucial need of this research. So as I mentioned, that these were the cases which shaped my attention, and there was rape and harassment through moral policing, through metaphorical language, through euphemistic language, through rhetorical terminology. So through this, the serious gender inequalities and human rights violation against women in Pakistani society made it necessary to address these issues. This was a research by Raza, 2023. So I can say that there was a crucial need, there was a dire need for addressing this issue. Background of the study: social media memes employ why social media memes are very influential on social medias in digital sphere, because they are coated with humor, they are coated with satire, visual language, there is metaphorical language, means reinforce victim activities, normalize. So social media means normalize rape, which is not easy. So means we reinforce victim blaming, normalize victim silencing, and perpetuate jacketing violence. Limited research has explored presentation of rape and harassment within Pakistani culture. As it says, so the study investigates ideological portrayal of rape and harassment victims through Pakistani social media memes and the model which have been utilized by socio-cognitive model and analysis. The rise of social media, we cannot deny the importance of social media in today's world, where there is sharing, circulation of memes, and then there is participatory discourse, because social media memes gave a platform, and social media gave platform to the users of social media, that they can comment, there can be user-generated discourse. Then there is the nature of the discourses, multimodal, symbols are there, pictures are there, then graphic interfaces there, then widespread and transformed into influential, because social media memes are used as influential tools for commenting on social and political issues, especially the serious issue of rape and harassment. Digital construction of rape narratives are constructed through these social media memes, like online discourse influence how victim perpetrators and incidents of sexual violence are interpreted and understood by society as well. So the representation of rape in digital spaces reflect because social media memes are a product of society, so they present the cognitive structure of the society as well. So there is victim blaming, victim silencing concern in Pakistan, based through social media memes. They do victim blaming, victim silencing, slut shaming, and that is acceptable through humor. The footing of the meme is very interesting. They use multimodal and multi-modes as well, pictures, images, and other resources as well. So patriarchal social norms in Pakistan often contribute to stigmatization and silencing of rape and harassment victims. This was the issue which need to be addressed, that the already sufferers are getting more severe threats of harassment through these social media memes. A critical examination of digital content is necessary to understand that how victim silencing ideologies are constructed, portrayed, reinforced, and how they basically influence the other cognitive patterns of social media users who are reading them or commenting on them. Statement of the problem is basically how social media memes frequently normalize, trivialize sexual violence through humor, satire, and visual symbolism. Memes contribute to the production of rape myths, because social media memes create rape myths, then victim blaming narratives, and these narratives are accepted in digital sphere as well. Linguistic and visual elements often reinforce patriarchal ideologies and narrative manipulation. So these social media memes and analysis of these memes is going to give a wider and broader vision that how these related, how these were interpreted, and how these were communicated, and how they expose the cognitive patterns of social media users through the analytical evidence, that is semiotic and linguistic evidence, through the creation of memes. A critical investigation is therefore needing uncommitted sources of cognitive and time algorithm underlying the representation of fake harassment practices in Pakistani meme culture, which is the influential culture nowadays. Aim of the study is to address or expose the audience perception, cognitive patterns deeply rooted in social structure, because whatever is being said and communicated on social media, that is a product of society. Further, it seeks to reveal that how social media means normalize, trivialize, and resist victim blaming. As I said, so there are two, you can say, perspective of meme creation. One is positive, which is to resist victim blaming discourse, and one which is basically producing the victim blaming and victim silencing discourse. So memes are doing both works, positively and negatively. And I have analyzed both positive and negative roles of social media, and how that has been communicated within Pakistani digital culture. Research objectives to investigate how urban sexual violence is constructed in online Pakistani social media on rape and harassment victims. Second, to identify semiotic, because these are the main dimensions or key dimensions of my research at how semiotic and linguistic resources are responsible for the creation of verbal sexual violence and semiotic violence. Social media users in their social media means for the portrayal of rape and harassment victims. Third dimension was, as far as objective is concerned, to explore how the cognitive structure of Pakistani social media users contribute to the creation of online memes on rape and harassment victims, because cognitive structures are responsible for its production. So the last is what to investigate persuasive strategies employed by Pakistani social media users in their meme creation on rape and harassment victims. The research questions are aligned with research objectives and dimensions of research and statement of the problem. Number one is how urban sexual violence is constructed through Pakistani social media memes on rape and harassment victims. Then how do semiotic choices made by Pakistani social media users contribute to the construction of sexual violence and victim blaming. Third is to the meta structure of Pakistani social media users contribute to the construction of memes on harassment and rape victims through their textual structure. And the last one is what persuasion strategies do Pakistani social media users employ in their meme on rape and harassment victims.
You said, four objectives.
Yes.
Now, how do you justify four objectives in the light of statement of the problem, name of the study, and the title of the study?
Basically, all these things are aligned. So there are four dimensions of my research, as the research topic itself says, the social media means of rape and harassment victims. So first of all, coming with the first, you can say the basic word of my topic, that is memes. So memes are the manifestation of semiotic and linguistic choices. So but to first question address this particular area, that the construction of social media means, that how this construction is responsible for victim blaming, victim silencing, and how social media means are responsible for slut shaming. Then other is there are other strategies as well, like social media means on rape and harassment victims in Pakistan. So then dealing with the third, that is the cognitive patterns within the socio-cultural perspective, that is Pakistani cultural style. So then the third question deals with the cognitive pattern within Pakistani scenario, social scenario, and the last one was the persuasion strategy, because social media memes are, you can say, that discursive tools or artifacts to influence the public perception or interpretation, or to touch or to affect the cognitive patterns of social media users. So for that, social media users are being created using persuasive strategies. So these are the four dimensions of my research, which are there in the statement of the problem. These deals with the objectives of the research, which are there in the research questions, and this is going to be there within the analytical framework as well. So because these areas are explored, and proper analytical justification through visual and linguistic evidences is proved that how it is being said. So there are answers of these four dimensions in my research.
Okay, now we the sequencing in the RQs, we have what first,
Yes.
and then how and why later. How do you justify what at the end of the RQs?
Basically, what is already there. What was happening with social media means on data harassment victims in Pakistan, they are creating what sexual violence victim level. So, how is more important? Because the construction of social media meme is important than the circulation and how they influence the cognitive pattern. So, how is everything? Within that word, that is how. So how is more important than what? And how it is influencing the social sphere, digital discourse, how it is affecting the cognitive patterns of social media memes created, and how this is responsible for slut shaming victim blaming. So how comes first? Obviously, what is there, but what is incorporated within how? There is no, you can say, a clear line of demarcation between what and how, because what is that means how. So how gives answer to what next is. Am I clear? Basically, the question was that what should come first and how should come later. So what is what here? You have gone through my research. What was what? The social media means or how? But what was that? How social media means create rape and harassment victims, discourse of victim blaming, victim silencing. But that cannot be possible without how. That how that verbal sexual violence was constructed, how the cognitive patterns were influenced, how the persuasive strategies were utilized. Then comes
Normally, when we say what we are quantitative. So, do you have answer of something like
because my research is qualitative. It gives more weightage to how. Because qualitative research gives more clarity in depth of rigorous research where the how the meaning is created. So, as far as critical discourse analysis is concerned, it gives answer to as it is a socially committed research which investigates some sort of problem. So, there is a problem, and how I generalize that, so how that process happens, so how is basically the key factors, because critical discourse analysis or qualitative research gives answer to how and why. Then comes what?
then why is not there anywhere in RQs?
So basically these hows are the reasons why give clarity to why. Because this is what's happening and how it's happening, that is more important. Why is already clear. Why is there in the topic as well that social media memes in Pakistan create verbal semiotic violence and do victim blaming, victim silencing. How it's doing, that is more important in terms of this particular research is concerned. Because qualitative research gives meaning that how meanings are created, how meanings are created, how meanings are portrayed, how meanings are affecting the cognitive patterns of social media. So how is basically giving a systematic. So qualitative research is more systematic and more, you can say, concerned revolve around how.
Okay, panelists, do you agree? Are you panelists?
You know, sir, the question was, I was looking the same in research objectives. It also, there is some set patterns and rules about research objectives, starting with, can you please go back to research objectives?
Sure.
Okay. The first question to investigate, and if the fourth is also to investigate.
How is there? How purpose actually is constructed?
See, cannot be the same to investigate in only one objectives, to use the word investigate and bring the fourth in the same one.
Fourth one is persuasive strategies. Persuasive strategies are different in terms of using echoes, pesos, logos, and rhetorical language, metaphorical language, use of humor, and lexicalization. These are the persuasive strategies which basically persuade
And
or
there is
influence the creative patterns of social media users. So this is not same. Persuasive strategies are different, and the use of obviously these persuasive strategies are incorporated with semiotic and linguistic choices. But how every social media user is using it differently. Maybe the words are same, but the strategies are different.
Sir, I have few of the observations here. For example, Miss, you have mentioned here to identify the semiotic choices. I personally think, or whatever I have studied about research, I personally think that whenever we start an objective with to identify, the question must be started or formulated with what. And the fourth one, you have mentioned here to investigate. And the question is what persuasive strategies?
To investigate the persuasive strategies.
When there is a kind of investigation,
Well,
I think
obviously, when you're saying two, it means you are more mainly concerned with what strategies are you using.
no.
The point of concern is the word investigate.
Yes, the research work is basically the point of concern. When we go for a kind of investigation, I think we must go for
Why?
how, why and how. And if we have used to identify, then we should go for what. And sir also raised a question. We should start from what, and then we should go to investigate and to answer how.
And that can be justified. For example, you are heavily qualitative, and then your purpose statement pushes you to be quantitative at the end. So qualitative, quantitative design, there is a consider as a whole, that is quantitative treatment, and that is why what has come at the end. But the point is, there is no thematic connection between the objective verb and the page word.
Yes.
That is the point of concern. Number two, either this, the identifier must be changed in order to match with the object, question number two. And number four, investigate the verb should be changed in order to match with the objective number four, which demands quantitative treatment if that is the result.
Basically, the research was aimed to identify what type of semiotic choices were utilized. So, what was there? I have to identify certain semiotic choices which were utilized by the social media users. So, investigation is there. Means I have to identify this was used by this was means, for example, as I was saying, so there are two types of meme created, positively and negatively. So, I have to identify which were utilized by positive and which were utilized by.
There is no objection for what you want to achieve. There is no objection.
So there is identification.
The point is, these are seasoned research methodology students, right? Rigorously trained. No, they cannot digest the mismatch between the objective verb and the PH word.
And I'm giving reason that if I visualize investigate, I'm investigating. There is investigation of semiotic choices. And when I am saying to investigate the persuasive strategies, obviously when I am saying that this lot has utilized these, what means, as you said, so there should be what is there within investigation? Because when you investigate what?
Investigation is, I think there is a kind of investigation in the research, but that should be shown here in your objectives and in your questions also.
Okay, if I am going to give you an opportunity, what would you like to switch with investigate? I mean, even though investigation is there.
Investigation is right here.
Okay.
But in the question sections, I think you should go for how. If you are using here, investigation.
How is there in the first
There are three
question?
how.
Huh?
So now this one you can replace your word to what extent, because it is the quantitative. If it is, then you can replace that word with
No. Basically, how is more qualitative? What is more quantitative? Because when you are getting statistical data, numerical data, you go with what? This.
No, this
How is more concerned about the
So
procedure?
it will heavily depend on how you try to find the answer of that. If you have taken the proper research process till the end,
Yes.
and in order to find out the answer, then you need to make the objective verb to match it with what.
Basically, my research is mainly concerned with the process of creation of meaning, then perception and interpretation, then impacting the cognitive pattern. So everywhere, how is more at work. How semiotic choices are used, how linguistic choices are used, how cognitive patterns are influenced, and how persuasive strategies are utilized. So I'm more concerned about how, because there is procedural data, there is analytical evidence, which is qualitative in terms of data, qualitative data is there. Answer is in qualitative data as well. So more is about the creation, how.
Okay, what steps as a researcher you took to answer question number 4?
That is persuasion, strategies of persuasion through semiotic and linguistic choices. Obviously, these linguistic and semiotic choices are analytical evidence that what sort of persuasive strategies were used. Emotionality is there, then ethos, pathos, logos is there, then if I'm then I'm saying that rhetorical language is used, satire, humor, symbolism is there. So these are the strategies of persuasion which are employed by social media users in the creation of the on-the-advisor aspect.
Okay, so can you call it a quantitative treatment?
It is basically qualitative as well as the recognition of the procedural things or analytical evidence is concerned. But as far as tabulation analysis is concerned, because I have done data analysis through tabulation, so it can be a touch of quantitative data but analyzed as qualitative. There is no statistical or numerical addition to that. But obviously, there is distinction between each and every table. Like linguistic analysis there, semiotic analysis there, then discourse and pragmatic perspectives are analyzed, and there is congruency between that how the congruency between semiotic and linguistic choices. So we can say that qualitative data is there obviously, but each and every category is rigorously and through analytical lens it is being analyzed through proper procedural things.
Okay, when it is
Should I move forward or is there a question?
can I move forward?
Okay, I'll be there.
And that's a very crucial stage.
It's a very crucial stage, and you know, everybody, when you are there on the defense stage, on the stage, there are certain things where you can have rebuttal, polite rebuttal. And polite rebuttal, if you try to present your case time and again, and still body language is the same. The panelists, they are furious, and they, after listening to your answer, they are more unconvinced. Then you change yourself. You can be very flexible. Thank you for pointing it out.
Okay, thank you for your suggestion. I'll keep this thing in my mind.
That's good.
Okay. So should I move forward? Okay.
So I would like to request you, please give a comprehensive clearance of using what in the research, because I'm not
You see,
in qualitative
Research
research. In qualitative research.
in research design, mixed method is applied. All of it.
Yes.
Sometimes it is heavily qualitative. So you graph objective number 1, 2, 3, it is qualitative. And then somewhere, now you are summing it up, and then you give quantitative treatment. That part that I mentioned. And as a result, you can justify the creation of RQ, which is quantitative in output. And then you can say, well, I didn't start it with quantitative. So that is why my all objectives and RQs 1, 2, 3, they demanded qualitative treatment, and they are qualitative, and then there is this qualitative. That can be an impressive justification. Aisha? Do they provide tea as well during defense?
Yes, what tea, not to the presenter, but to the rest of people who can enjoy.
Oh, here at Naval is notorious for 3 hours of defense. 3 hours of defense. And there, they give you, all
So I think today is my defense because tomorrow it's not a good session. It's half an hour to maybe 40 minutes. That is maximum because they have already gone through so many presentations, seminars, so they don't drag because on that day they are more concerned about presenting certificate.
hoping against hope, but the style you have is, too much of elaboration and too much of.
Sir, I want to be a teacher.
Yes, sir.
And right from the research work, when I was a teacher in first semester and second semester, I would call her, Nudrat, please forget that you are a teacher, speak like a researcher. Now the way you are presenting, they will take 3 hours for sure.
So I tried to kill a teacher with the way of special.
Don't kill them.
It's still there. Okay, sir. Okay, coming to the literature, we took these are the slides which are being just move on because it's finally very good. Obviously, people are very curious of about knowing all these things.
No, we want to know what was the style of conducting literature. Was it chronological or conceptual?
Sir, it was a mixture of chronological plus conceptual because there was a key talent that I have prepared a flowchart of my literature into dealing with the key dimensions of my research area, starting with obviously with the critical discourse analysis of the lens and the direct need of this particular research, the rise of social media. Then what type of researches have already been conducted and what sort of methodologies they have applied, starting with
Now, Nudrat, please be careful. On the day of defense, don't refer the people to the draft.
Okay.
That I have done this in the draft or something. They want to listen to you. There's well assimilated and digested concepts and ideas. So if that question is asked, what was your style of,
It was a mixture of conceptual and chronological. There is the systematic development of the problem and theory and all these. And there was a key constructs of my research which kept in consideration while preparing literature. So there was a flowchart and I wrote the flowchart.
Okay, now when we say outcome of literature, what did you achieve after conducting literature?
After conducting literature, there were three dimensions which basically on which I have started my own journey being the researcher that I have to start collecting data. These were the key findings as well as the researcher was concerned, as I said, so that when I started my research, there was not even a single research because I started in 2020. There was not a single research on social media memes on rape and harassment victims, and even there was no research on rape and harassment when I started. And then after publication and all these things, there was the emergence of a few articles from research from Pakistani culture. There were Pakistani researchers who worked on the linguistic dimensions of the research techniques, textual analysis was there, and there were you can say prevalent gaps which need to address by the future researcher as well. As there was research on social media movement, mainly concerned with political issues, there was electronic media, there was the verdicts or the analysis of the, you can say, verdicts of the rape and harassment victims that what are their stances when they were being raped or harassed. So the police investigation, they were legalized, but as well as social media memes and social stances, because as I said, so in 2007 and 2018 when there was a case of rape case, and after the case it was there was massive bombardment of social media memes on rape and harassment. These cases were discussed in online sphere, and there were two instances, positive and negative one. But the magnitude of negative social media movements is so great that they reinforced or they created great myths as we are going to go through these social media memes and I will be discussing their analysis as well. So there was clear gap, there was no research on the real rape cases, there was this was clear then, and there was methodological triangulation. Earlier only the socio-cognitive model was being utilized, or either the meta was utilized. There were other methods like fifth class reading model, and there was Wood's historical model of critical discourse analysis. But as far as the socio-cognitive and triangulation of the method, that was one thing which this is going to be a new thing. Then CDA theorization in digital sphere, this is going to be a new thing. And it was new thing or there is more user-generated content available on that. Then memes were included if they were directly or indirectly reference rape. Secular only included those memes which were related to rape or harassment. There was exclusion, the rest of the rape jokes or you can say the gender jokes were not included, only the cases under discussed or selected cases, the memes on them were only selected. There were 50 social media memes and credit comment. There was proper data gathering, then data link screening, and then data saturation. Only those cases were selected which fall between 2018 to 2021, and there was a filter. Only those cases were selected on which there were at least 25 to 50 social media memes, and the same goes for the third comment. There was code frequency count technique. I utilized proposal sampling, and within that proposal sampling, there was code frequency count technique, and only those cases were selected with their means were selected with their no further. The same repetition was not added. There was proper saturation of data. Step followed, as I said, so data gathering, data screening, and data saturation. There were pure criteria for inclusion and exclusion. The justification for taking 50 means I chose depth over breadth. And because there were rigorous research, there were two models which I applied on social media memes, and there were tabulation analysis, there were 4 tables, linguistic analysis was there, semiotic analysis was there, and there was resource and pragmatic aspects which were analyzed in tabulation analysis, and then there was congruency between the text and semiotic resources. So 50 means were enough to do analysis, because to contextualize, to analyze the context, to analyze linguistic and semiotic resources, I could justify 50 means. And they were clear as well these filters which I applied. But it was manageable for thorough critical analysis, especially considering the need of contextualization in linguistic and socio-cultural element. It balances richness of data with visibility in analysis.
Whether I suggest not to read from their slides, is there
as I said, so code frequency counting, 50 means were selected. There was proper inclusion and exclusion criteria. I haven't taken the cases before 2018 and after 2021. There were cases where there was a filter and temporal filter I applied. Then I only chose those cases on which 25 to 50 means were available. Then only Pakistani socio-cultural perspective in terms of selection of means was considered. No foreign mean were added, or exclusion of male rape cases. There is no male rape case which was included. These are the filters which are applied. Victim-related discourse is there. Seminars, lectures, WhatsApp, and other platforms were not added because it wasn't easier to justify taking all the you can say platforms are active. Two platforms, Twitter and Facebook. WhatsApp status and private messages were not analyzed. I kept ethical consideration because there is clear meta policy that research data can be collected from Facebook for the academic or research purpose. Same goes for Twitter. There is a clear cut policy of Twitter that we can use data from Twitter for the academic or research purpose. There is a law as well well. There is if you get data from Facebook and Twitter, it may not be in the case of infringement in terms of theft or anything. So there is law in Pakistan, it's a penal law that will even take data from Facebook and Twitter, and it's okay with that. So these are, and plus even though these were the liberties given by Meta and Twitter, but even then there was anonymity of the meme creator.
Dr. Svara is taking her class at 4. So, if you want to ask any question, please.
No, I just suggest you that things are going quite well, but I want you to go back to your background of the study, where you. Yes.
Yeah.
Rather than go for the in-depth, you can say things there because you have like just 10 to 15 minutes for the presentation time or.
No, it depends. I mean, they give you full-fledged time for presentation only. For question answer session, that is 10 to 15 minutes, or maybe less than that.
But do they have any
But
set
they
time?
don't let you read all the slides. They are just, you're going to open your presentation and then, okay, come to the statement of the problem. Okay, come to the research objective, research. Okay, come directly to methodology. Come directly to findings.
Should we do the same?
Because there is not the flow of, no, I'm easy because it gives me food for thought as well, and I'm getting good words from my fellows, like literature map, I got this word too. There are good things which I'm getting and I'm utilizing that, so I'm at ease. I'm just concerned about tomorrow's paper.
So,
The rest of the things are okay.
Any question?
But I give you a suggestion, as you said, so that there should be minimum, maybe these slides are going to be
Also,
So, keep the slides as they are, but the point is, you just move fast.
and you are going to be in so many depths of this thing without, you can say, everything you are explaining by yourself, it's fine. But there should be some kind of limitations in your presentation because presentation style is somewhat else and defense, you can say, style is somewhat else. So you have to make a differentiate over there.
Yes, obviously. Thank you. Thank you so much.
What was your class at 4? Yes. This
In 2009.
2009. We have 15 minutes.
Okay, sir. Moving to that, as I have already told you, it's tabulation analysis. There are, and in these tabulation analysis, linguistic analysis, there are semiotics, and then there was linguistics, discourse, and pragmatic aspects were considered because one semiotic choices, the linguistic choices, and what choices strategies were basically gone through the analytical evidence to data. So then coming to the data analysis, that how sign makes sense, data function as the fundamental semantic forms at work and level, then how mainstream and employed derogatory and abusive labels such as force. That you can have look up these to me. These are about rape and harassment of law or case, law or whatever. You can have a look of and the derogatory language which was utilized for the rape and harassment victims. Then moving to the data analysis, the discourse is characterized as what type of language is used, casual, insensitive, absence of empathy that you have just have visualized. There was even say visual or indications were there as how metaphors were used, conceptual metaphors were there, and visually metaphors were utilized. An absence of empathy and sympathy for the victim hearing narratives, victim silent strategies, normalization of gender stereotypes, and these were deeply rooted by Brazil, Pakistani, socio-cultural perspective as have given you the means of sex at great places to have sex, and motorway was one of them. And these semiotic choices contribute to reinforcement of patriarchal ideologies, marginalization, victim experiences, legitimation of rape, sex, and gender degradation, lessen the severity of rape, and rape, which is a suffering, turned into entertainment for the main characters. but a source of constant suffering for the rape and harassment victims. Reproduction of harmful social attitudes developed to women, and you must have seen that there are two memes. One was about Zahra case, and the Kokomo, which is an edible, was used as commodity, which was given to the girl for rape. So semantic form imply complex humor, transform rape and sexual violence into objects of entertainment, express it as then you are that rape, but the rape was so good, the sex was so good. These are the rape memes which are the real representation of the language and semiotic choices which they have utilized. And you can have the color, the caption, the capitalization, and the use of the semiotic choices which we utilize for these rape and harassment, like use of Perina, Zana was rape and murder. So that and framework through human therapy, diminishing the gravity of the crime, the humorous role create discursive shift from victimization to amusement, normalization violence against women, and reducing public sensitivity towards survivors. There were comments on that. There were threaded comments, and the comments are having the same insensitivity here as well, because they created rape myths, victim silencing is legitimized or normalized through semiotic and linguistic choices and the persuasive strategies. They added humor, the euphemistic language, then the rhetorical language, satire, then pathos. Positivity negativity both these they were positive social media as well. So then they jokes like something is commodified from social media engagement and entertainment. Symbol for modification of child sexual abuse, Kokomo as sexual symbol of a sort of reward for the exploitation. Then objectifying the child, the mainstream abuse as a transactional or damage and a consumable act. Visual textual combination of store the seriousness of child sexual violence to playful and commercial imagery and the use of Kokomo. Then coming to this, you can have a look of these social media memes as well. The third, which is being selected by the meme creator, was a girl who was murdered, raped, and burned, and had choices. Choice 3. Then who would you select? Sastina Chania in terms of a prostitute is compared with Zana, who is a 7-year-old rape victim. Victim blaming through moral framing, humor as a strategy of normalization, reduce empathy towards victims and back violence into entertainment. Social media memes were loaded with semiotic resources which were manipulated by social media users to express their perspective of the victim. These semiotic resources were a great source of creative moment. These are the few memes which I have added to, otherwise there were 50 social media memes on that. Then blaming other women for the rape of women as well. Just have a look at the language choice. These socio-cognitive and multi discourse analysis will have linguistic and semiotic resources in online discourse, create violence against women, gendered language, misogyny. These started to expose the society's patriarchal mindset. In the same way, women were criticized for the choice of dressing instead of showing empathy for the rape. So, giving rape justification that why rapes were happening because of the choice of the dress the other victims were having. So, you can see the metaphor utilized over there. Then, there was another girl who is not 1 year old. She was raped, her hands were cut, and the rapist is saying, "Bitch stole my virginity." Victim blaming and discursive marginalization discourse was predominantly characterized as victim blaming humor sensing the shifting away from the blame is shifted from perpetrator, the culprit to the victim itself. Means they themselves they asked for that. So themselves responsible. So ridicule questions, that questions that they have silence victim, voicing we can say delegitimizing their experience. So stylistic analysis will be persuasive and non-serious and insensitive language. Means related to that matter case, motorway case, transform from entertainment into humorous and shareable content. The circulation of these memes demonstrate how digital culture can mark human suffering into entertainment and social community. Child rape as in meme number 10. In meme number 10, because there was a caption that the child rape is imminent. It has to happen, and there is art in that. Means rely on harnessing linguistic resources, mixing engagement and ideological impacts, including metaphor and directly framing victim instead of framing the perpetrators. Casual and colloquial language to create familiarity with code mixing, so it should be comprehensible for the social media use. User learning, the Romanized to enhancing accessibility and circulation among digital audience, the stylistic choices, relatability and variability due to the choices in sport, mixing, code switching. Then masking the seriousness of sexual violence through humor and ironic statements. Cultural framing and ideological polarization, good women versus bad women, or traditional women versus the modern women. These multiple relates to that. Ideological framing. You must have seen that only the victims were being shown. There were only one or two memes where characters were shown. That was one way of backgrounding the criminal. Foregrounding is about more targeted is the criminal, not criminal, the victims. Their pictures are shown, but the criminal's pictures are not utilized. These were my questions, and that was the data generated for answer. How is homosexual violence constructed through Pakistani social media memes on data and perspective? This was question number 1. Homosexual violence as a discursive practice. How these were considered misogynistic, language used, forces, patriarchal values, marginalizing survivors, linguistic and semiotic choices, repeated circulation of these memes, change public narrative, and contribute to the normalization of anti-gay violence. Then religion, culture, there were social media memes where cultural references were even their religious, Quranic references and were quoted not in a full context, only those verses were taken where women were given instruction that how should they cover themselves, not instructions for the men. So this was intentional on the part of the movie creators, that all instructions are for the men who were raped, who were suffering. Cultural honor codes were there, moral policing, narratives, patriarchal gender values. That the previous meeting you must have seen that they have utilized the word haram zadiyan. That in haram zadiyan we will see that is the rape is happening. So which also slut, whore, bitch. Victim blaming as a dominant discursive strategy. Victims are frequently positioned as responsible for the violence acts. In motivated case, there were two stanzas. One was for the ex-former Prime Minister Imran Khan, that women should not come out and she should not consider Pakistan as trans. And there was CCPO, who was a public figure, and there were memes on that. It's a statement that women considered France and it was Pakistan. Instead of putting blame to the criminal, the blame was on the victim. So the moral policing, victim blamed for the crime which was being committed to them because she motivated case. She should not have gone on motivated case. And such linguistic choices shift responsibility from perpetrators to the victims and legitimate discrimination totally. Humor as a mechanism of legitimization, because thing is, humor lessens the severity of the case or issue. That means that sarcasm and irony are strategically utilized to utilize rape and harassment. Being transformed from traumatic experience to entertainment, like Zara Portability case and the use of hope and research. The normalization of sexual violence that it will remain as you must have seen in the that it is evident and there is hard. Encouraging audience engagement through amusement rather than critical reflection. Humorous representations of as the equal social acceptance of faithfulness. Then lexical strategies used to construct sexual violence, standard stereotypical language, value, mental vocabulary, emotionality, positive and negatively, because there were social media memes which were about hashtag rape, hashtag hand rape victims. So there were memes on that. There were pictures, semiotic choices that the culprit, not the real culprit, just the pictures of some dummies were being hacked. So hashtag justice for Zara, hashtag justice for those memes. There are positive memes as well, which arouse the emotionality factor as well. This was used as one of the persuasive strategies of social media creates and metaphorical construction, joking and internet is specific language, intertextuality referring to whether it gets settled, and these linguistic resources function are or ideological. I get a commentary with how these, like table number one, is full of empirical evidences like how the linguistic choices, semiotic choices, and persuasive strategies are responsible for legitimizing rape and harassment. Then discursive and minimization of perpetrator justification, as I said, so backgrounding the culprits and foregrounding the victims and the capitalizations and the pictures and the dark colors. These are very self-evident in terms of targeting the victims and silencing them. Perpetrators justify ethical choices in the culprits such strategies reduce perceived severity of rape and harassment, and counter discourses and resistance narrative is there. And effects so there are positive memes and negative memes as well. So positive memes about hashtags and the rapists. So then how semiotic choices made Pakistani social media users contribute to the construction of sexual violence, and as I said, so that linguistic choices use of metaphor, adjectives, nouns, then the use of Urdu, Urdu, then Pakistani contextual language, then internet language. These were the choices by linguistic choices, and as well as semiotic choices, the colors, caption, fonts, data colors were utilized. Victims were more foregrounded, their names were capitalized, and captions were given, and hashtags were utilized, as well as semiotic choices were concerned. Positively, the handing off in terms use of hashtags, they act as positive semiotic choices as well, in terms of using their pictures and not the real picture of the culprit, but the dummy pictures or the symbolic pictures. Because symbolic symbols were there. Humor, ID, and meme campaigns like ideological states, gender and morality, then traditional women versus polarization, which are domestic spaces versus public spaces that women has to be designed to restricted within home. So then color typography and emotionality, like color choices, typographic features contribute to significantly in theme making. As I said, so contrasting color, dark colors, foregrounded, so these things are foregrounded capitalization, and use of hashtag, then the use of using the frame that fitting the picture, the caption is above but the image is below, the more credit is given to the caption, and there is congruency between the image and the textual structures as well, semiotic and linguistic choices. So we get one of the most significant semiotic patterns, and we call it systematic absence of culprits. Systematic. And it is being followed throughout the means. The perpetrators are missing. This was intentional on the part of the social media meme creators as well. Only victims were targeted, only their pictures were shared. Positive and negative, yes, there was some meme about Ramshan rape case where there was emotional line that her mother has to put down her shalwar dikhane ke liye what happened to her. These were the emotional touches positively used as well. Emotional appeals to real victim images, memes frequently appropriate photographs of their victims evoke emotional response from audience, and the use of authentic victim images, as in Zalabred motorway rape case, there was not a picture, there was time and again use of that word motorway. Then there was Ramshan rape case, there was more rape case, so the pictures were of the victims were utilized. Increase the persuasive power of meme, generate sympathy, outrage, or public attention. And how to better structure these linguistic and semiotic choices are self-evident to reveal the cognitive structure of social media users and the cultural impacts and the cultural structures which are responsible to responsible for certain cognitive structures. So dominant cognitive schemas regarding gender morality as उसको इस वक्त रात को वाइड नहीं करना चाहिए था, उसने उसको फ्रॉक से समझा she should औरतों को कवर करना चाहिए, औरतों के पर्दे का करना है. So these were the cognitive schemas which are deeply rooted in patriarchal and cultural mindset of Pakistani social media users, constructing them as contributed to their own victimization. like in unwavering case and even unwavering case, her parents were being criticized that अपनी बेटी को तुम छोड़ के चले गए, so they should be with. Victims are frequently represented through pre-existing social script rather than that of individual with unique experience as such. Even there was a addition of one harassment case that was Minare Pakistan harassment case. There is one you can say blogger or YouTuber who was harassed by 400 men, and the blame was on the victim, not the 400 men who touched on her clothes. Again and again, her picture was shown where she was having a time, you can say, not covering herself. Such representation reinforces culturally embedded assumptions. So this is all patriarchal mindset and cultural embedded, which reinforce or influence the cognitive structure of social media users to use such semiotic and linguistic choices while making the social media use. And implicit victim blaming through textual structure, there is visible victim blaming label. Implicit victim blaming as a textual structure and ideological framing, lexical construction, trivialization of harassment, bad women, good women, traditional women, modern women. So modern women is that was the bad women. These lexical choices are different from social ideologies and reinforce patriarchal dynamics. Human integrative and discursive resources, but lacking intellectuality, then audience become increasingly accustomed to victim integration and creation of greatness. And socio-cognitive control of online discourse and how power is created, and it's also that more magnitude to negativity. So negativity creates fear, which is more overpowering. So then Urdu has a role of cultural proximity and reproduction of patriarchal knowledge structures and strategical and emotional appeal of the social media means. Findings in the research in terms of patriarchal mindset use of strategies of persuasion, manipulation of Quranic verses as a instrument that only those parts of Quranic verses are included to deliver instructions to women. Although the same surah has instructions to male as that is excluded. So how for is them for victimization? And what are the persuasion strategies? Ethos, pathos, logos, ethos, the cultural or the topic, the emotionality factor, both positively and negatively. Then use of Quranic references, verses, and persuasion strategies as well. Then emoticons are there, emotionality is there, lexicalization is there, use of euphemistic language, and use of practical language, use of satire, irony is there, then victim blaming narrative, moral policing is there. Then if we talk about the key findings, victim blaming discourse, women are harassed or the sexual violence is being constructed for the victim as well for deserving as well as you have visualized social media means and character assassination is there, normalization of sexual violence, human mitigation, gender identity, polarization, male morality versus female emotionality, good women versus bad women, persuasion strategies responsible for creating positive and negative impact for the social media being created, how they think structures are responsible for victim blaming, victim silencing, and highlighting the sad side of victims as well, positively as well, like hashtag justice for women, hashtag justice for them. So these are the positive social media means as well. Religiously references, cultural materials are there. As well as contribution to the research is concerned, theoretical contribution as I said, so the theorization of CDA into digital sphere, then bridges that gap which is not taken earlier, and the methodological triangulation is there, socio-cognitive and meta-analysis personalized utilized in digital sphere as well. Then analytical framework, as I said, so societal contribution awareness in terms of the language use, how social media memes can work positively and negatively. But the mindset of negative meme is so encouraged, there should be positive memes as well, which can highlight the sad side of the victims as well. So these were some suggestions and exposes digital misogyny, how misogyny is created, circulated, and accepted in the Pakistani patriarchal mindset. Memes are not neutral entertainment, they shape social perception and sexual violence, and how narratives are built, how narratives are accepted, reinforced, the cognitive patterns on the social media that rape is normalized. Rape is easy now. Social media means have fit these narratives as well. So raises awareness about online public sexual violence coming to the implication, there are social implications, awareness is there, and there should be more policy implication as well, that such there should be some cyber security, there should be so strict laws for that such social media users should be banned throughout their life, that there should be strict punishment, they should be put in jails as well. And this can be addition in educational paradigm as well, that computer mediated communication can be part of the CBSE education as well. The student of media studies should be familiarized with computer mediated communication, the meme culture, all of its narratives, and the role of social media, and the language variation. This can be addition in terms of socio-linguistic as well, psycholinguistics as well, that how semantic and linguistic choices are self-explanatory to expose the cognitive patterns of social media users as well. Then policy implication then can be practical implication, this research can be indicated, or it can be done through other social media platforms. There is a chance of using mixed methodology as well. If I have utilized qualitative, there can be and then there can be utilized quantitative and qualitative. I have not taken victim's perspective, that what are the effect of on cognitive patterns of the victims of rape and harassment through these social media means. So this can be an area which can be explored by future researchers. And cross-cultural study can be Pakistani memes, can be compared with the international memes. Quality can be done. There are a lot of, I can say, areas which can be explored. That is all from my side. If you have any questions, go ahead. Thank you so much.
Question answers. At this point, say no any question.
Okay.
Alright. One thing now comments are question answer session. So yes.
Thank you so much. So, how many cases you have taken for analysis?
Total 9 rape cases and 1 harassment case.
So, your study based on just whole Pakistan. So, you just mentioned your title. So, how many cases from Punjab, Rajasthan, Sindh, from other points are just either from Pakistan?
As I said, so I have applied filters. As well as only those cases were taken on which 25 to 15 means were there. And then there was another filter of the temporal filter, was there only cases which happened within 2018 to 2021 were taken. So there was no, you can say, discrimination in terms of taking cases from Punjab. These were the, because social media was taken, so these were the filter applied on the social media platforms. Only 2 platforms were selected. Then only those means were selected, only those cases were selected which happened between 2018 to 2021. Then only those cases were taken which were on which only minimum 25 to 50 means were there. There can be some other cases from other means. There is no discrimination of cases taking Punjab from others.
So are these cases
They are from different cultures as well. Like Noor is from Rajasthan area. So these are the cases which are from the different provinces of Pakistan. This is not like at all the cases. Obviously the prominent cases are from Punjab, because Punjab is, you can say, a province where the cases are more highlighted or more talked about on social media. There are provinces like Pakhtunkhwa or Rajasthan where there is less privilege to taking cases on social media. They try to hide the cases, but there are, as in this Noor, which was a child rape, there were 2 to 3 rape cases which are from Khyber Pakhtunkhwa and Balochistan.
You talked about that you have selected 9 cases.
10 cases.
10
1
cases.
harassment and 9 rape and murder cases. There were
What is the rationale for selecting 10 cases out of 50?
As I just
It was there inclusion and exclusion.
criteria.
And Nudrat, first you did have eye contact with the last panelist. He refused to receive information from your slides, and that is why he asked the question.
I'm really sorry for that. I will keep this thing in my mind. But as I said so, that there was clear criteria of inclusion and exclusion, and I have applied filter, which I have just mentioned so that only 2018 to 21 the cases during this temporary period were taken, and only those cases were taken on which at least there were 25 to 50. So that these are the high profile cases. They created more hype on social media, more talked about cases in terms of social media.
You have taken 10 cases from Pakistan. Definitely, you might have studied a lot about the rape cases. And in 2012, there was a very famous rape case in India, Nirbhaya rape case
Yes.
at Delhi that was done during the bus was moving. And that case really changed the horizon of India, that brought a change into their POSCO Act. So a lot of research was conducted on that case. Even the main research was not possible at that time. But a lot of research was conducted, and even that research helped the government to bring some changes in the constitution.
Yes, I am going to just point out one rape case that was rape, that of rape and murder cases changed the judiciary system of Pakistan as well. Before that, there was no proper, even say, capital punishment for the rape. But
So,
that of rape case.
sir, the question is that as an outcome of your project, what policy changes do you see in Pakistani?
Sir, more strictness toward using of social media. They shouldn't be. They
Already there is martial law.
That is not some other thing.
That is about one institution of Pakistan. That's not about the gendered language.
Okay, it is the same system that they apply now any misusers.
In terms of the women
Creating bad memes.
especially yes. And secondly, it would be
Nowadays, there are many more cases that are reported on social media, means in which the police, whenever there is some incident when some male is, doing something wrong with females, and after that we see a recorded video which I was having a gun and was burst. So such cases are also there. I think that will also help to reduce such cases. So, do you understand what I'm trying to say? I mean, the filing of the victim on the private parts and the record a video.
Yes.
CCD, you know the role of CCD?
Yes.
But you must have seen if you have gone through the social media or electronic media, there is positive and negative impact of CCD. Now recently they have reported a case where the girl basically accused her own father. But and the CCD killed her father, and later they discovered that it was planned. Yes. So forensic basically evidence is proved that he was not really. So if we have just given all in all means our part to CCD, there should be proper investigation. Then there should be capital punishment. Punishment should be through the court, so that it should be for the rest of the society. They should learn. Otherwise, CCD is playing positively and negatively. It depends upon the situation. So that's not a game changer. Game changer can be through the judiciary.
I'm completely against it, but just for the representative.
This is one incident maybe they have killed so many people that can be CCD taking. We cannot trust them blindly. It's just they are killing without. There should be proper investigation, and there all these you can say approach should be through social media. They should be we should be aware that yes, he was the culprit, and he should be. Even then, he should not be killed by police. It's judiciary. What is the role of law then? If we can take you can say guns in our hand and just killing that they.
Yes, miss.
Okay.
You have chosen different memes and language that is been used in the meme that is heart-wrenching. How do you have digested all these memes and all such kind of wording while you are doing research?
Researchers, psychological health also matters. The question is that after going through all this, how did you manage to save yourself from the trauma?
Yes.
It was really traumatic, as I said, so means we get emotional, we go with the flow, but it was being a researcher, you have to a girl, obviously the language was a bit tough, you can say. It was happening for me as well. But being a researcher, I have to justify.
And it was really daring on her part to take up this area, and being a female, taking up this area. You know why she could take it up? Because we used to call her at GC University, she was my colleague also. We used to call her SHO. SHO of GC Women University. Very sticky up and very powerful and strong.
Sir, I would add one thing, the credit goes to the strong males behind it. Because my father is always there, my chacha, as I said, so they always stand up. So if the people, that is what I wanted to share with you. If you are taking such bold topics and you're going to research new thing and you're going to add something in terms of contributing to knowledge, obviously Pakistan is a patriarchal society. If I say in a dialogue of a father, the credit goes to my father. He's always there. He's there, take it on, he never said take it. There are so many things where there is social pressure, but I have never had any pressure from my family, I can say the credit goes to Allah. I might be blessed to be such people, you can say relations in terms of chachu, cousins. They always have me in terms of these computational things. My cousin Hassan was always there. Abhi kya karana hai? Acha isko theek kar. These are the things.
And you know, huge contribution taking up this area when males sitting there, they listen to such bold kind of area research. The animals in that cave, get killed automatically.
It's true, sir.
And then this is also a contribution, picking up that area, and then the journey we started. Initially, believe me, because when you would come from the practice, I would also get shaky. Then gradually, Dr. Aisha, why Dr. Aisha? Okay. She would also say, well, that is the research spirit. Striking research area, social issue, busting social issue, addressing them, and as a result, now you see, after 4 years, the end of the journey, tomorrow she will do PhD.
So the credit goes to my supervisor. He is such a cherished I would say that he was not just a mentor, like an elder brother, always there to support you and reprimand you when you are not working. But for me, the language which I was working on, it was difficult to work with such a supervisor who can take it another way. But so working with me, it's really credit goes to you. It was like we are working within a family. Your own brother is there to look after you, to support you as a mentor and a supervisor. So if we could take such steps, again the patriarchy is there. You have to have strong male voice supporting you. That's like if I'm strong, the credit goes to the family who are always there to support, or the teachers like Dr. Suku who is always there. I never felt that I'm doing such topics. Really. So ये तो फिर credit से कोई बात नहीं. If I'm taking such bold steps और मैं criticize उस language में analyze करूँ, सबको दिखाऊँगी, discuss करूँ. But I never ever felt कि मैं मेल से कोई मुझे ऐसा लग रहा था घर में ही सब discuss करें. मैं ये करूँ, I can do this और ये ठीक है. So I never felt ashamed कि मैं कोई ऐसा topic ले लिया. मुझे ऐसी word, ऐसी language use हो रही है.
So before selecting this topic or title for your PhD, so before it, when you were at school, college, or university as a student, so have you ever, did you have that kind of interest or discussion on these kind of issues, topics?
I was inclined towards this topic when I was doing my MPhil. I wanted to research on the language of prostitutes, the deterioration of language of prostitute with the time historically. But my supervisor, Dr. Sarvaj Biswal, she's from Fatma University, she said, no, whom is going to, are you going to visit the institution? Whom you are going to send? Your father and your class will visit that institution. To visiting prostitute is not. But I was always inclined towards such topic. I wanted to take. But at that time, I was just there are all positive things, but visiting prostitute
Being
is
capitalistic, discussing that kind of issues.
then there was another topic I wanted to talk on language of transgenders. But always these were the issues which were there.
Now you are going to get the license tomorrow to drive a car. Now you can drive any car.
Yeah.
You can, and such areas which are, which even males, they are, afraid of picking up. Now, Nudrat will take them up. Such a daring kind of, such
being
social scientist.
made to feel
EFCP apprentice. Yes.
Thank you so much. Your topic is so broad. I have two questions. How your research would be beneficial for the future researchers? And second, you have used one like socio-cognitive critical discourse analysis model. So how your theoretical framework is different from your conceptual framework?
Very interesting question. As you said, that this was a whole topic, but as I said, so we are going to reason for selecting this topic. It was more, but because these were the issues which were not addressed earlier. One has to take the step and go and explore and then find realities of the society and how society is behaving today. But this research is going to pave the way for the other researcher as I said. I wanted to work on the language of prostitutes, I wanted to work on the language of transgender, even though I wanted to work on the language of the social issues like the people who are got separated, what type of words they utilize for each other, and how there was a recent issue on social media nowadays where an elderly woman got married and she has 8 or 9 daughters, or she's being criticized by gays that are why she has a legal or Sharia right to remarry. Why only women is being criticized? The rest of the even you can have that name on social media, and you can be ashamed of the language utilized for that. Women, elderly women who has, you can say, grown up kids, and that particular language is being utilized. So here in Pakistan, women are not considered decisive. After we at the age of 55, we are not decisive. So when can we be decisive? So these are the areas which will be explored further by maybe the researchers and work on these areas. Please now, Sharad wali baat hai, tera wali baat hai.
She can also take up such areas. She was also my supervising and CDA specialist. And CDA. And now she is doing PhD. And I don't know what areas she take up.
Yes, sure, CD and corpus linguistics.
That's really very good. Then coming to your second question, that was how the conceptual framework is different from, obviously, the first instance or the first definition was very, you can say, important in terms of theorization, that was the theory. Then from theory, there were constructs, there were concepts, and that were implemented through the analytical framework. The concepts were taken from obviously the theory. So the theory to concept, that was one of the slides of mine, that how I work from theory to the concept and how concepts are being, you can say, implemented through the analytical framework. So this is not different. These were the theorization that was the construct of theory, that how these constructs were put into the conceptual framework, how things were taken, and how that concept was developed through analytical framework by analyzing context, socio-cognitive discourse. As my main concern was to explore cognitive structure through semiotic and linguistic choices. So the context alone model cannot justify that particular thing because I need analytical evidences. So for analytical evidences, I have used Punjab analysis of test and management. They provided analytical evidence, semiotic and linguistic choices, which basically help to explore the cognitive practical social behaviors.
Thank you so much.
How will you justify drawing conclusions about cognitive structures from the informant alone without incorporating audience reception data?
If I'm able to get your question, I will go regarding your main question is that how I incorporated this means and analysis to question over there, or what you wanted to say? Would you like to just precise your question
through the public.
through the public?
Okay. How will you justify drawing conclusions about cognitive structures from the
Okay, I got it. Basically, as far as the final conclusion is concerned, and as far as the journalization of the conclusion is concerned, I'm not statistically generalizing. I'm analytically generalizing. That is the difference between smart and data is limited, although, but there is analytical lens, there is analytical exploration through socio-cognitive and methodological, and these 15 means are basically as there is a proper stance of linguist that language is a social product. Language is both constitutive and constituted. It's reciprocal. We add to language and language add to our personality. We receive language from society and we add language to society as well. So it's reciprocal. So basically these narratives which we are talking about, patriarchal or ideologies which are created or mediated or watered within that Pakistani socio-cultural perspective. As women cannot go out at 12 or the biology doesn't use like this. Society has created these norms through linguistic and semiotic choices. So these are self-evident through the social media. So journalization is analytic. Obviously, that is limited within the through systematic evidence, analytical evidence, the evidence through semiotic and linguistic choices are basically. I am not saying that data is. The conclusion is data-driven. So whatever is being said as far as analytical stances are, these are data-driven stances. So semiotic linguistic choices are there. The means are self-evident. You must have seen all these history of the means. So these are the 15 means. There are more than that. But saturation of data was concerned. Otherwise, there was repetition of the same language.
Thank you.
Question?
First of all, I appreciate your effort. You both is so good. And my question is, after completing this research, what is your position regarding the role of changing the social media and changing attitude towards sexual violence victims?
This is a very valid question. Being a teacher, and I'm teaching to base student at government and I graduate college before that I was teaching at TCB University. When I started working on this topic, I had to discuss with my students how language impacts, how narratives are built, and how you should be brave enough to challenge these narratives of victim blaming, victim silence. And through this research, and through the discussion, through seminars, through the publication, and by adding these, as I was saying, so that they should be added to some of the part of the analytical, in terms of analytical perspective, should be added to media studies, should be added to discourse studies as well, so we can realize how language makes sense and how language basically reinforce or influence the cognitive patterns of other social media users. Nowadays, you must have seen, you must have heard about rape case, and it's very easy. We are not reacting on that. We take it. It's a normalization thing. So who is normalizing rape? Who is normalizing rape and harassment? These discourses which are created on social media. So if there is negativity there, why we should not work on the positivity? There should be more needs in the favor of these rape victims. I forgot to mention one thing. There was one Me Too movement which has been criticized a lot, but there are positive impacts of Me Too movement as well. That Me Too movement, obviously there are pros and cons of everything. Positive, but this was the first movement in Pakistan to give right to the victims, to give rise to the sad fact of the victims. They are being heard by them. They are being supported by them. So there are social media means, positive social media means supporting the rape and harassment. There should be more discourse on that. And that should be taught to the co-education institution as well, like how gendered language is creating problems for already sufferers, like the people who already suffered, they are suffering again and again by reading these social media. Thank you so much.
feedback.
The mail is something.
No, right? Thank you, Dr. Nudrat Javed Hashmi. Please clap for her. When supervisor declares somebody doctor, it means no force in the planet ever can stop part of the
Thank you so much, sir. It means a lot.
And,
You made my day, sir.
and she deserves it. She earned that. 4 years of hard work, and you know how I make you work hard. And she was part of that, WhatsApp group, voice notes, meetings, and that kind of thing. And I'm really proud of her, the way she stood here, delivered, interacted with you, and the way she showed full command on an area, a discipline called critical discourse skills. And you as CDA, students, scholars, now you must have seen that CDA works wonderfully well. As a social scientist, you take CDA as a research discipline. You are saved from so many things. Other social scientists, they face that, the music. They are not allowed to be victim of preconceived notions. They are not allowed to be giving the sweeping statements. CDA practitioners, they do, because they are in the hunt for something wrong. And they say that there is something wrong. They start the research with the case.
Yes.
And CTA research provides you that chance. And if you become well versed, the only thing to be a CTA practitioner, you have to be linguistically very professional. And that is discourse competence. If you are not, and you are pathetic in linguistic expression, and you come up with something, you will find trouble. You don't really insult you better. And in case of Dr. Nudrat, I'm sure that when she give sweeping statements or some preconceived notions and the burning issue, and this is nobody would even dare to stop her or object on her. Nudrat, how the hell? I've listened to such kind of sentences. During the defense, people have listened to such kind of sentences. How the hell you can say that? Why have you come up with such a sweeping statement? CTA says linguistic competence and discourse competence, that's says. And that makes you the real social scientists, interventionists, transformative. So I am really happy and thank you for being here, and you created a wave of awareness among the future scholars. That is, next generation scholars. The time you covered, you also went through the same process. I was taking that PhD class, was part of that. The answer was there. One person is there,
She talked.
there are people, they leave your brain and they come at satisfaction. But I'm sure that these 5 scholars, they will not leave each other in dust. They will complete the journey, but that journey demands devotion and ferocious kind of commitment. And that should start now again after the midterm exam. I brought the midterm results also, but after listening to such wonderful presentation, I should not share the results and create bad taste in some mouths. Next week, I will announce the results, which is good to great extent. But now the journey must start. post midterm journey must start. So thank you very much. Your next talk is waiting. The next one. Thank you so much for
Thank you so
being part
much,
of this.
everyone. Thank you so much.
Good luck.
Thank you. I gave 10 to 15 topics and the credit was topics that you could have been listened to research on the topic. Okay, now it's back to the literature review. Research demonstrates that comic memes culture frequently produce misogynistic narratives, victim-blaming attitude, and negative stereotypes about rape and harassment victims. This was the research in 2020. So, that paper was research by Hashmi in 2023 basically worked on the rape issues, studies of rape and acceptance in Pakistan. They claimed that tracking these traditional gender norms, rape supportive attitudes significantly influence public perception of victims and sexual violence. Contemporary scholarships highlight that victim-blaming tendencies remain strongly associated with honor-based cultural values. This was a thing which being explored through the cognitive structure, that how the cultural norms, the cultural patterns are responsible to reinforce or mediate basically the cognitive structure of social media users who create social media memes on serious social issues by putting humor and by going victim blaming and different things. Then there was a lot of work in international research was done by humanities and all and Ring Roses. They have done a lot of research on the especially in rape and harassment victims. So and it was in 2021 and previously they have worked on the same issue in 2018. So a lot of research and this is that if you just explore, there is less research on rape and harassment victims and especially this meme scenario. Then coming to contemporary scholarships highlighted victim-blaming tendencies remain strongly associated with honor based. This was a research by Daphne et al. Cultural values, societal acceptance of rape women. So societal acceptance of rape women basically add fuel or agony to the already sufferers, the victims of rape and harassment victims. So they are being mocked, they are being trivialized, and their sad cry is not being heard because it's their suffering has changed into entertainment by social media. So studies indicate that social media discourse often normalizes violence, and the recent investigation about ideologies and misogynistic discourse that Ali and Khan 2022 they portrayed of sexual violence and how they portray and how patriarchal ideologies at work when there is the portrayal of sexual violence in digital discourse as well. As far as the research gaps are concerned, there is a methodological gap as I said. So methodological calculations they are combining socio-cognitive model with midlife resource analysis because the social media memes are multimodal as well. So then methodological there are no Pakistani specific digital framework was earlier being utilized, no localized context, no work on the Pakistani cultural languages as well as the social media users concerned, use of Romanized Urdu language and code mixing, code switching, which are the strategies employed by social media users in their meme creation. So these areas were not paved earlier, there was a lack of then stadium-based theorization was not done, so I can say that, sorry, thank you. So CDM-based theorization was missing, so this research was again by adding CDM theorization to digital sphere. Then text only CD ignoring visual resources like picture, images, layouts. So existing research lack context sensitive or multimodal and trauma informed critical resource framework capable of explaining how social media memes in Pakistani produce normalized culture, victim-blaming culture and discourses surrounding rape and harassment victims. And there was lack of research on social media memes on real rape cases, like of real rape cases. They were done in number. One was harassment case, the 9 were rape cases, and the rape and murder cases as well. Then lack of research on strategies or perceptions regarding influence in this area was not paved as well in terms of the methodological
or affecting the cognitive patterns of social media users. As far as the design of my research or research methodologies, scientific, qualitative research, qualitative, critical, interpretive research design is there. Why qualitative, critical, interpretive research design? Because the present research seeks to explore meaning, representation, ideologies, and correlations embedded in social media. The emphasis is on interpretation, so that is why I am saying that it is interpretive research design. Context is important and discourse is important, and as well as temporal or contextual. Contextual design is in fact it is non-experimental. This is not experimental. This is qualitative research. It is contextual research. As well as paradigm position is concerned, it is critical constructivist paradigm because meanings are created socially. So meanings are socially associated. Type of qualitative research is, if I have to say, serious non-linear market, but research is kind of dominant collective research team, making it essential for feeling for sensitive issues like payment transportation, a serious social issue. If I have to talk about the analytical orientation, multimodal qualitative design or social media means are amalgamated of all these resources. The nature of the design, I have to say, this is explanatory and exploratory, both explanatory, systematic academic research on particularly social media about rape and harassment is still limited. So this is going to be an addition to the research area that we explore. So the patterns responsible to create social media memes. So it is exploratory. Why exploratory? There is a reason. The study explains how and why certain discursive patterns, victim blaming, criminalization, misogyny are produced and normalized. Should I move forward? Or do you? It's really.
This is very crucial.
And then, but fortunately, they don't have a question.
We have long questions. We have long list of questions.
Yes.
Go ahead.
At the end,
So it's up to you. It is the time.
at the end, okay.
If you want to ask, you can ask me because
Just fine.
it's okay. Okay, the theoretical to conceptual framework, socio-cognitive theory, then social constructive important, and power, ideologies, culture, and institutions that work in terms of mediated discourse. Because socio-cognitive theory is basically a triangular relationship, deals with triangular relationship between society, definition, and discourse. And discourse can be multi-modal. So that multi-modal means, different multimodality means we acquire knowledge through different modes. There are multi-modes to acquire knowledge, and how meaning is being constructed, associated. The context is important in terms of meaning. The linguist who said there is no meaning of meaning. Meanings are associated within that cultural perspective. So cultural context gives meaning to the meaning. So cognitive theories and mental models, cognition, ideology, cognition mediated through society and discourse, and cognitive patterns and